Hello everyone, my name is Makeda Voletta, also known as the Body Scientist. And in case you don't know me, I have a background in exercise and sports science and nutrition, and also in biology. Before I was an exercise scientist, I was a very serious biotechnology student, so very much into the study of microbes and genetics. Um, and I am currently here in Scottsdale, Arizona for the International Society for the Study of Women's Sexual Health um, here in Arizona. And there's a lot of doctors, gynecologists, sex therapists, and mostly gynecologists and sex therapists, maybe some other health professionals. And there's 3 days of them giving lectures about a variety of topics dealing with women's sexual health. And I'm here with my punani eggs, or also known as yoni eggs or vaginal eggs, to talk to doctors about it and try to explain it. And speaking with midwives, I have come across a lot of midwives who have heard of the egg, but they don't really know much about it. And a lot of midwives and birth workers will talk about how a lot of women have incontinence issues after giving birth, and a lot of them don't know what to tell women. They think that it'll eventually go away. And midwives, that's not their expertise. They catch babies, they deliver babies. They are not in the business of strengthening muscles. I'm a strength and conditioning coach, exercise physiologist. I'm not a physical therapist, but I do post rehab. So once somebody has been to physical therapy, I will take them after that. And there are pelvic floor physical therapists as well. And I have had clients that have had to see pelvic floor physical therapists for a variety of reasons. And I have worked with them after they're done. And so I'm inspired to do a series of videos while I'm here because there's a bunch of topics coming up that relates to the eggs and the work that I do in terms of a solution, okay? Because, so for example, let's talk about vaginal dryness, okay, and menopause. Some women experience vaginal dryness before menopause, but they're spending a lot of time at this conference talking about this, and most of the doctors that are there seem to look like they're menopausal women or postmenopause. The people at the conference don't look like they're very sexual, because usually when someone's having a lot of orgasms, a lot of good sex, they have a glow to them. A lot of these doctors, especially the female doctors, don't have that. There was a sex therapist that came to our table yesterday, and she was like picking up the eggs, and she's like telling me, oh, these are way too heavy. My ladies couldn't lift this. This is way too heavy, and blah, blah, blah. She's just being so negative. And so I asked her, oh, have you heard of them? Like, have you, and she's like, oh, yeah, but there's nothing I haven't heard of before. I'm a sex therapist. And I'm like, okay, well, I didn't ask you if you heard of it. I asked you if you worked with them or, you have any patients that work with them. And she immediately snapped and said, I don't talk about my sex life. I'm really angry. And she's pregnant. And maybe, I don't know. But I found that interesting because I have no problem telling people that I work with the eggs. And I wasn't asking her about her sex life. Working with eggs has nothing to do with your sex life. I didn't ask her who she had sex with. I asked her, have you worked with eggs or do you have any patients that have? And she snapped at me, and then she starts telling me about how she recommends vaginal weights to her clients, not eggs. She'd never seen the eggs before. And the vaginal weights are made from like plastic and stuff like that. A lot of the doctors were asking me, what's the difference between the eggs and Benoit balls? And the Benoit balls, they're circular, and that's cool. I've used those before, but made out of stone and crystals, because most Benoit balls are made from metal, which is not good, metal and plastic. I've used crystal spears balls. I think the egg is better because it conforms to the vaginal canal better. So that's my preference. I'm not a big fan of the balls, but you could use that. But most of the Benoit balls that are on the market, the ones that they were asking me about, are made of metal and plastic. Then there was another doctor who mentioned a uniball that she recommends to her clients is made of plastic. So a lot of them understand, kind of the concept, and many of them had never heard of it. But to the right and to the left of us, there are people who are selling like estrogel and all these different gels, vaginal gels for women to help increase the estrogen and lubrication. And one doctor did a presentation. He showed a picture of a vagina of a young woman and then a vagina of a postmenopausal woman. And he was talking about how they call it VBA, and which is VVA is like, what is it? It's something vaginal atrophy, vulvar vaginal atrophy, I think is what it stands for, which is basically saying that your vagina muscles are atrophying and drying out. And there's a new medical term for it. Let me see if I can find the correct medical term that I wrote down in my notebook for it. But basically, it was just showing that a postmenopausal vagina is very dried out. The vaginal muscles can start to seal together and almost close to the point where the woman will have to go to the operating room to get it reopened. And that the vaginal muscles of a young woman has the ripply, folds in it. But postmenopause, that's not there anymore. The blood flow is not going there like it used to. So of course it's not lubricated, it's not elastic like it used to be. So this is what they spend a great deal of time talking about at this conference, because there are a lot of women who are going through menopause or postmenopausal. There are a whole lot of women like that. So that talks to a huge population. A lot of women think that working with the eggs is only for young women, or it's only for women who have sex with men, and I have lots of videos where I talk about that, where I dispel those myths. And why I believe all women should work with it. But all of these things that they're acting like it's such a mystery, and like, oh, we need to use this cream and this pill. Well, let me tell you how mystical goddess eggs and Puanani eggs can help. Because working with the egg naturally stimulates our Bartholin glands, naturally, which is the glands that secrete mucus and lubrication when we're aroused. So it naturally does that. So working with the egg will make a woman wetter. Even if she's already super wet, she will get wetter, period. So a woman is going through menopause or has gone through menopause and is dealing with dryness issues, an egg will definitely help get you juicy again. Then working with the egg helps stimulate the body's natural estrogen, the body's producing of estrogen. Of course, massaging the ovaries too, which they don't speak about at all. But because estrogen is made in our ovaries, massaging the ovaries can help. If there's a woman who has had her ovaries removed, I would suggest taking a freeze-dried ovary supplement. And there is a good company that makes them, and the name escapes me off the top of my head right now, but I can let you know if you email me. But a freeze-dried ovary supplement, like heals like. Okay, so eating ovaries is good for your ovaries. Eating eggs is good for your eggs. For men, eating testicles is good for your testicles. So all around the world, you see men who eat the testicles of other animals, and that's because the men get testosterone from it. So if you do still have your ovaries, massaging your ovaries is a great way to help to increase natural estrogen production. However, I've been studying with a wonderful woman in Long Beach, California, named Pankazani, and her organization is called Indija Mama. And she teaches a Mesoamerican abdominal massage, and I've been studying with her for about a year and a half now. And she talks about how the uterus being in the wrong place is a big deal. Like American doctors act like, oh, your uterus is tilted to the left, it's tilted to the right. It's not such a big deal, but it is a big deal. Because if your uterus is tilted a certain way, it can put pressure on your ovaries or on other organs and cause other problems. So let's say your uterus is tilted to the left and it's putting pressure on one of your ovaries. So now the ovary may be secreting estrogen, but it's not getting to the brain. It's not getting to where it's supposed to be. So now it's just building up. Now you have health problems related to high estrogen, or maybe the estrogen's not secreting properly. So there's a variety of things that can happen with your hormones if your uterus and your other internal organs are not in the right place. And I won't get too much in depth into that in this video, because that's not what this video is about. And I also recommend you checking out Pankazani's work. But with that being said, these doctors don't speak about that at all, about the placement of the uterus and stimulating the ovaries, but that's another way to increase estrogen. Moving the hips, stimulating the breast, nipple stimulation, orgasm, all help to naturally increase estrogen. But of course, as a woman's estrogen is decreasing and she feels less sexual, then it kind of goes hand in hand. But it's interesting because the doctor put up a slide of it had like the roles of estrogen in the body, and he had some things on that list that I hadn't seen before, and I'm so mad I didn't get to copy it all down. I need to get a copy of that slide. But one thing that he had, and I've been looking all night to find this again, But on that list, it said estrogen helps women feel vibrations more. Okay, so it increases the amount of vibration that women feel, and I find this interesting because the more I've worked with eggs, and I've seen it happen to other women, the more I've worked with eggs, the woman, you get more aroused and you get more sensitive to the point where you're sitting on a bus or something and you feel the vibration from the bus and it's making you extremely aroused. It feels like a vibrator. And that's what he said. He said the vibratory, it makes you feel it more, estrogen. And I always thought it was because working with the eggs, especially if you learn how to manipulate the eggs, it's forcing you to tune into your muscles more. And when you tune into your muscles more and you contract them, that increases the blood flow, that increases the feeling. So I thought that was why. But working with the egg also increases estrogen. So it could be all three of those reasons that makes a woman a lot more sensitive when working with the egg. Estrogen also helps to increase the blood flow to the vaginal tissues, okay? So your brain thinking about your vaginal muscles, also contracting your vaginal muscles, both of those increase the blood flow. But estrogen itself increases blood flow and elasticity to your vaginal muscles. So increasing estrogen is totally good for that. And when a woman dries out, she's more susceptible to infections. They also spoke about how older women, postmenopausal, have more vaginal infections than younger women. And that is because the pH of the vaginal canal. When a woman is premenopausal, our vaginal canals is the second most acidic place in the body, okay? So extremely acidic. Once a woman has gone through menopause, it becomes just neutral, okay? So with that, a whole lot more infections open up. And I have videos on YouTube about vaginal health and natural spermicide, and I talk about that. So that's another issue. Also, you want to talk about vaginal atrophy, okay? Atrophy means the muscles are getting weaker, they're not being used, they get thinner, they lose their function. So how do we correct atrophy is, how do we connect, we correct it by strengthening the muscles, okay? So when you and that's what my central strength training class is about, all the muscles in our body, okay? Even our eye muscles, okay? My eyesight is not so great because I wear glasses and my eye muscles don't have to work, your eyes get worse. So when you don't work muscles, okay, the muscles get weaker. So if the muscles in your vaginal canal are atrophying, what do you have to do? You have to strength train them so that they become thicker again. Working with the egg does make your vaginal muscles thicker, and men report that. They become wetter, they become thicker, they become stronger. But also estrogen makes the vaginal muscles thicker too, okay? So that's another role that estrogen plays in the body. So the egg and the estrogen have a lot of the similar roles, you know, and it's interesting because Easter, that people think of being associated with Jesus or something, is really named after Oestre, a goddess. And Oestre sounds like estrogen. And they're eggs, beautiful eggs. And our ovaries are kind of egg-shaped too. So you see how all those things are related? I don't try to get too metaphysical and spiritual when I'm talking to doctors because then sometimes you lose them. You ever speak to them on a scientific level. So, you know, but I'm just saying it's all related, right? Let me see. Another thing. Oh, yeah, they call it vulvovaginal atrophy, VVA. But the new term is genital urinary syndrome of menopause. Genital urinary syndrome of menopause. And it affects about 50% of menopausal women. And usually starts happening in the mid-50s. And the doctor said many women with this issue do need vaginal physical therapy. They do need pelvic floor physical therapy. There's other reasons why somebody might need pelvic floor physical therapy, and I'll talk about that in another video. Let me see, is there anything else I need to add to that? Estrogen. So basically, again, postmenopausal women, less blood supply, atrophying, thinning of the epithelium, and less glycogen. The glycogen helps to feed the good bacteria in our vaginal canal that helped to ward off infections. And the doctor also told the other doctors that they should know VVA when they see it. They shouldn't have to do any blood test or any type of acid test. Like, you should be able to look at it and see. He was showing pictures of a young, healthy vagina where it's pink, it's wet, glistening, the muscles are thick. You know, when you open it, the muscles were thick and still stuck together. But with a postmenopausal vagina, when you open it, it was dry, it just opened up, it was like red and irritated on the inside. So he said doctors should be able to see that and know that automatically. Um,